Varanasi is the world's oldest living city, a place where the routines of daily life happen within arm's reach of the open pyres. Here, death is a public, accepted neighbor. But after sunset at Manikarnika Ghat, the atmosphere shifts. The cremation fires have burned here for centuries without stopping, casting a permanent, flickering glow over the riverbank. Those who work the fires, the Dams, enforce a strict, unwritten law that governs these hours. They tell visitors that absolutely no photography is permitted after the clock strikes midnight. This rule exists in no official government mandate or religious text. It is a piece of oral history passed down through generations of caretakers who spend their lives in the company of the dead. The Dams do not maintain this ban out of a sense of religious piety. Their warning is born from experience. They believe that certain things wandering the riverbank at night are simply not meant for human eyes. In 2011, British filmmaker Daniel Harper arrived in Varanasi to document the city's death rituals. He was a rationalist who had built a career demystifying ancient burial cultures around the world. Daniel viewed the Dams' nighttime ban as a colorful piece of folklore, a story designed to protect the local mystery of the Ghat from outside scrutiny. At 2:30 a.m., he decided to break the rule. He walked onto the Ghat alone, carrying his camera into the darkness to prove that the unseen was nothing more than smoke and shadow. Daniel approached the site with the confidence of a man armed with technology, assuming his high-definition lens would provide a logical explanation for every ghost story he was told. It was the eve of a new moon. A thick fog had risen from the Ganges, swallowing the stone steps and leaving only the orange glow of a few distant pyres. Daniel began taking photos in the deserted sections of the Ghat. At first, the digital previews showed nothing but the expected silhouettes of stone and wood. Then, he spotted a figure at the edge of the fog. An impossibly old man was walking alone, hunched under a massive, heavy wooden log. The scene was unnervingly silent. Despite the massive burden on the man's shoulder, there was no sound of footsteps on the stone and no creak of shifting timber. As the figure moved, the dense river fog began swirling away from him, as if recoiling, refusing to touch the entity's body. Instead of retreating, Daniel's professional instincts took over. He raised his camera and stepped closer to the figure to get a clear shot. "Daniel," called out, and the figure stopped. It slowly began to turn its torso and head toward the moonlight. The entity had no face. Where there should be features, there was only tight, featureless skin. Daniel wrote that despite the lack of eyes, he felt a crushing sense of being watched. A nearby pyre suddenly flared, and the burst of light revealed dozens of identical, faceless figures standing silently in the smoke behind the first. The entities began to glide forward, their legs never moving. A chorus of disembodied whispers suddenly surrounded Daniel, telling him to go back. Daniel fled. He tripped on a broken stone step, injuring himself and losing his camera in the darkness. As he struggled to his feet, a voice hissed directly into his ear, warning him never to speak of what he had seen. The next morning, a local Dam looked at Daniel's terrified, pale face and asked one question: "Did you look at his face?" The filmmaker realized the warning had been a boundary, and he had stepped over it. Years later, Daniel was living in England, surrounded by the suburban safety of a British winter, 5,000 miles away from the Ganges. He had become a recluse. He abandoned his documentary, he covered every mirror in his house, and refused to let the lights go out at night. Daniel died in 2017. While clearing his home, his family discovered a weathered leather diary hidden in his bedroom. Most of the pages had been torn out. The final entry was dated 2017, written at 3:17 a.m. on a night of heavy snow. While his family initially looked for signs of psychological trauma, Daniel's final pages describe a much more persistent threat. 6 years of distance had done nothing to break his connection to the Ghat. In the entry, Daniel admitted to hearing those same unintelligible whispers from the riverbank coming from inside the walls of his English home. He wrote that he had seen a reflection in the window glass, a hunched figure in white cloth standing directly behind him, even though the room was empty. The handwriting becomes increasingly frantic as he describes a long, thin shadow slowly sliding under his bedroom door. Daniel's final written thought was that the thing from the Manikarnika Ghat had never forgotten him. The Doms of Manikarnika believe that nighttime photography creates a permanent link between the observer and the observed. To pull those shadows into a frame is to invite them to follow you into the light.